I think the last time we spoke was in Liverpool, actually, at St George's Hall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not that long
Feels
ago.
like a lifetime
It does.
ago.
You've done a lot of travelling since then.
I've hit over 32 towns and cities, and I've loved it. I've genuinely filled my cup by going into communities up and down the country. I went to Merthyr Tydfil in Wales. I've been to Hull, Wigan, Durham. I've been all the way down to Worthing, and it's been amazing because those people have organised events as volunteers with no resources, no access to data, and they've absolutely smashed it. And it's been really inspiring because that is the party. I know people want to think of me and Jeremy and others as your party, but it's the 190 proto branches, it's the 50,000 members, it's the people kind of waiting cautiously, thinking about making the jump, and that's the beauty of it, that it's much bigger than any of us.
Does the party currently have a disciplinary committee or individuals elected?
No, because the party hasn't been founded, and the fact that we have groups that have been prescribed before members have even been able to vote on that is absolutely shameful. And people are throwing the word democracy around meaninglessly. It has to be rooted in members deciding what our membership structures look like, what our membership policy is, what our leadership model is. It has to be members who decide, not nameless, faceless bureaucrats who have all the power concentrated in their hands.
You talk about nameless, faceless bureaucrats within the party. I've spoken to a number of people today, including Michael Lavalette, councillor in Preston, and they're pretty clear. They seem to think that one person and one person alone is responsible for these expulsions, and they're naming Carrie Murphy.
I recognise exactly what they're talking about, and when they are naming individuals, obviously I have spoken about the way I've been treated by those same people, whether that's leaks to the Murdoch press, the legal threats, the bullying, the intimidation, and even the deliberate acts of sabotage which I've experienced before going on BBC Question Time. The fact that there are people who are unelected being able to make these decisions on a whim, I think is absolutely disgusting. And for us to have a democratic party, it has to be led by its members, and we have to be able to hold people to account. That means no one who is unelected by the members should be making decisions like this, and there needs to be real consequences to this. As a movement, I know that this behaviour is unacceptable. The membership will not tolerate it, the movement will not tolerate it, and it needs to stop.
So on a more positive note then, what would you like to see out of this weekend? What are you hoping to get out of conference?
I'm hoping that the members will decide on a name. Obviously the Left Party hasn't been included. Interesting.
So what's your choice out of the four?
I'm not a massive fan of any of them, but if I had to choose, it would have to be between your party and the Popular Alliance. Obviously the fact that members haven't been able to choose the Left Party, I think is again really concerning, because anything that I've personally supported, whether it's collective leadership or the Left Party, has interestingly been left out again by nameless, faceless bureaucrats, and I don't think that's a democratic principle at all. So a name for the party is obviously a great start. Sorting out our structures, the model of leadership, being able to establish the branches up and down the country, and I personally support 50% of membership subs going to those branches. I have met so many organisers across the country who just want to get on with it. They want to knock on doors, they want to run campaigns, they want to run in elections, and they need to be able to have the resources to do that and access to data, and that needs to be a priority.
Yeah, and obviously you talk about data. You're the sole director of MOU operations now. I understand that there's been some questions around, data. And
the thing about taking over the directorship of MOU, if I didn't, it would have been entirely liquidated. All the money and the data, and it's shocking that some people were willing to allow that to happen. Since taking over the directorship, I've transferred £600,000. I plan to send over all the money, despite all the dishonest briefing that is coming out. all the money will go to your party. But it's interesting that some of the legal communications I've had from your party and its treasurer explicitly does not want the remaining money from the membership portal, and I am insisting that all the money will be going to your party. So some of that briefing is completely, utterly dishonest.
Yeah, and you've talked openly multiple times about, you've apologised for some of the parts that you've played in some of the drama, shall we call it, that's taken place. But also, I think you've made it very clear to people that everything you've done has been with the interest of the members.
I think accountability is really important, and as politicians, the word sorry isn't something politicians usually say, and they should. And it's important to recognise where mistakes have happened, and I would say that a failure has been in the communication of this. We need more democracy, not less, and this has not been a spat, as sometimes it's framed, between two personalities or a couple of MPs. This is deeply ideological on what the party should be, how much power members should have, and whether it should be a party of coronations, fiefdoms and jobs for mates. I've always from the outset pushed for maximum member democracy, and from the outset when it came to arranging conference, I was pushing for a gender balanced committee, and me and Jeremy both agree that it should be gender balanced, racially diverse and regionally diverse. Unfortunately, that was rejected, and right from the outset I've always pushed for maximum democracy, true representation of the entire working class and the labour movement, and that's what I'll continue to do, because we will just be like any other hollow party machine if we do not empower members. If we're just solely focused on electoralism, we will become irrelevant outside of an election cycle. So we need to build social power, we need to increase trade union density, we need to be on picket lines, we need to be fighting deportations and evictions, and we need to build the power that the working class needs to fight back and gain power in this country, and materially improve people's lives, and that's through a socialist society. I think it's important to recognise that this is still a historic moment. This is an experiment and an exercise in democracy, and as long as we have foundations to build on, it is still progress. A couple of months ago we did not have a socialist left-wing party that was talking about maximum member democracy, that was looking at how we can move beyond parties that are just dominated by MPs and a top-down kind of hierarchy, and I think that is still a win that we should celebrate.
Amazing. Well, Zarah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.